Section 1.6, example 2 on page 53, we have in the proportion A over B equals C over D, the products AD and BC are called cross products. You can use the following property of cross products to solve proportions. The cross products of a proportion are equal. If A over B equals C over D, where B does not equal 0 and D does not equal 0, then AD equals BC. And this is called cross products because A and D are diagonal and B and C are diagonal across the equal sign. For example, 3 over 4 is equal to 9 over 12, so 3 times 12, or 36, is equal to 4 times 9, 36. Here's why it works. You can use the multiplication property of equality to prove the cross products property. So if we start with A over B equals C over D, and we assume that this is true, we can multiply both sides by the least common denominator, which would be BD. So all we're doing is multiplying A over B by BD and C over D by BD. Notice that on the left-hand side, we have BD times A over B. So we have a B on the top, a B on the bottom. We can get rid of those, and that leaves us with DA. On the right-hand side, we have BD times C over D. So we can get rid of the D on top and bottom, which leaves us with BC. Then we have AD equals BC by just switching the DA to AD by the commutative property. And that is exactly what the cross products property tells us. So for this proportion, A and D are called the extremes of the proportion, and B and C are called the means. Notice that in the cross products property, the product of the means equals the product of the extremes. So for example 2, we have what is the solution of the proportion 4 over 3 equals 8 over x. The cross product property tells us that if we go diagonally across the equal sign and multiply, we can get 4x equals 8 times 3, which gives us 4x equals 24. Now we want to isolate the x, so we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by 4. When you divide 4x by 4, you get 4 over 4 is 1, and that's just x. 24 divided by 4 is 6. Now, this looks similar to the first example, however, the x is on the denominator instead of in the numerator. So because the x is in the denominator, we can't just multiply or divide both sides to get x by itself, because x would not be just x. If you were to say divide both sides by 8 over x, and then you wanted to multiply by 1 over 8 or divide by 8, that would indeed get rid of your 8s, but that would not give you x. What it actually would give you is 1 over x. So this is why we don't just divide both sides by 8. You actually have to use the cross products property. Or you could use the algebra similar to how we proved the cross products property. This next slide has all the work written out with the explanation. And now I would like you to solve the proportion using the cross products property. 2 over negative 5 equals 6 over r.